Most people think they know what men want during foreplay. Some touch, a little heat, maybe a few moves to get things going. But what if I told you that what men actually crave goes way deeper than that? What if the things they secretly long for have more to do with how you make them feel than what you do to their body? This isn't about tricks or techniques. It's about connection, presence, and unspoken desires that most men will never admit out loud. But once you understand them, once you feel them, everything changes. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're not just going to understand what men truly want, you're going to know how to give them something they didn't even realize they were missing. Most people assume that when it comes to foreplay, men are just focused on the physical, that it's all about touch, sensation, and instant gratification. But here's the thing most people miss. What men secretly crave isn't just skin deep. Underneath that physical desire is something much more powerful and a lot more personal. Emotional validation. It's the part no one really talks about, but once you understand it, everything about your connection, especially in those intimate moments, changes. Think about it like this. Men, for the most part, are taught to be strong, stoic, and composed. From a young age, they're taught to prove their worth through achievement, strength, and control. That programming doesn't just disappear when the bedroom door closes. Even in moments that are supposed to be vulnerable and open, there's a part of a man that's still asking, am I doing this right? Am I enough? Do you really want me? He may not say it out loud. In fact, most men won't. They'll act confident, they'll lean in with that charming smirk, and they'll look like they have it all together. But under the surface, what many men are hoping for is a very specific type of approval. Not the kind that strokes the ego in a shallow way, but the kind that says, I see you, I want you. When you give a man that kind of validation, not just through words, but through your energy, your tone, your presence, it does something almost primal. It tells him that he's not just filling a role, not just checking off the boxes, but that who he is in that moment is completely accepted and craved. That's powerful. Because now, instead of trying to perform, he starts to open up. Instead of leading with what he thinks you want, he becomes more of himself. That's where real intimacy begins. And this doesn't mean you have to deliver some romantic monologue or shower him with compliments. It's subtle. It's in the way you look at him, how you respond to his touch, that quick smile when he kisses your neck, that little sound you make when he does something you like. These micro moments tell him everything. They tell him he's doing something right. They tell him he's wanted. And yes, sometimes even more than physical pleasure, men crave that feedback. It might sound strange, especially if you're used to thinking of men as the ones who are always confident, always sure of themselves. But even the most self-assured man has that quiet part of him that wants to know, do you still want me? Am I still exciting to you? Do I make you feel something? Foreplay is the one time where those answers come through without words. And yet, the answers are loud and clear. When a man feels emotionally validated in foreplay, everything else flows. He becomes more attentive, more generous, more emotionally tuned in. Why? Because he feels safe. And yes, men want safety too, not in the physical sense, but in the emotional sense. Safety to not be perfect. Safety to be clumsy or try something new without feeling judged. Safety to be seen without the mask. It's a rare experience for most men, and when they find it with someone, they don't forget it. So, what does this actually look like in real life? Maybe it's you reaching out first, kissing him with intention, taking a second to look him in the eyes, and letting that moment linger. Maybe it's saying, you smell so good, or I miss this, or even just grabbing his hand and placing it where you want it. All of that says, I want you. That, right there, that unspoken message is what a lot of men are quietly craving, but don't have the words to ask for. Because when they get it, when they feel it, it's not just about physical excitement anymore. It becomes about emotional closeness. And once you build that emotional layer, the physical part, it gets 10 times better. He stops holding back. He stops overthinking. He's just there with you in that moment. And that kind of presence, that's the real magic. Initiation. It's a small thing, right? Just a move, a gesture, a kiss. But for men, it's one of the most powerful and underrated parts of foreplay, and one they secretly crave far more than they'll ever admit. Because let's face it, in most situations, men are expected to be the initiators. They're expected to read the room, gauge the vibe, make the move, and lead the interaction. And after a while, even if they're good at it, it starts to feel like a one-sided game. Like intimacy is something they always have to earn instead of something that's naturally wanted. So what happens when a woman flips the script and initiates? When she makes the first move, not because she feels like she has to, but because she genuinely wants to. It completely changes the dynamic. It tells him that the desire isn't just mutual, it's active. That you're not just responding to his moves, but that you're thinking about him, wanting him, craving him in your own right. And for a man, especially one who's used to carrying the pressure of always leading, that moment is electric. It's not about dominance or taking control. It's about showing interest in a way that's honest and undeniable. A simple kiss out of nowhere, a slow touch on his neck while he's talking, whispering something playful or suggestive while you're both doing something mundane. It doesn't have to be some big production. In fact, the smaller and more natural it is, the more powerful it feels, because it's real. And when it's real, it cuts through all the noise in his head, all the second guessing, all the wondering if you're just going along with things or if you're actually into him. That moment removes all doubt. Most men won't tell you this directly, but they get tired of feeling like they always have to earn intimacy. They get tired of feeling like they have to set the mood, read your mind, and guess whether now is the right time. Sometimes they just want to feel wanted without having to chase it. They want to feel like you've been thinking about them the same way they've been thinking about you. And that's what initiation says. It says, I've been wanting this. I've been wanting you. And it's not just about physical contact. It can be the way you set the scene. Lighting a candle, playing a song that you know connects with both of you, changing the energy in the room just enough to signal, I'm here with you. I'm thinking about you. That's foreplay in its own right. It's the subtle art of building anticipation without saying a word. And when he picks up on that, it does something deep. It shifts his mindset from trying to impress to simply being present. Initiation also relieves the pressure, because believe it or not, a lot of men overthink their approach. They worry if they're being too forward, too soon, too aggressive, or not doing enough. But when you take that first step, it gives him the green light. It tells him he's not misreading the moment. It opens the door for him to show up more fully, more confidently, and without hesitation. And that's when everything flows more naturally. You might be thinking, well, what if I'm not used to making the first move? That's okay. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. In fact, most men aren't looking for something bold and dramatic. They're looking for signals, a touch, a glance, a playful comment, something that says, I'm feeling you right now. That kind of subtle initiation speaks louder than anything else, because it's layered with intention. It's not just physical, it's emotional. And once you get comfortable with it, you'll start to see how powerful it is, not just for him, but for you too, because suddenly the connection becomes mutual. It's no longer one person driving the moment and the other reacting. It's two people leaning in, both engaged, both present, both turned on, not just by touch, but by being wanted. And that changes the entire tone of foreplay. It becomes less about what's supposed to happen and more about what you're both actually feeling. And when that happens, everything becomes more real, more intimate, and honestly, more unforgettable. There's this idea floating around that men are just physical creatures, that all it takes is a visual cue or a quick touch and they're good to go. And while, yes, visual stimulation plays a part, what a lot of people don't realize is that men deeply crave sensation. The kind that's slow, intentional, and full of meaning. The kind that makes them feel not just turned on, but connected. It's that slow, sensual touch during foreplay that can take a man from simply being physically ready to being emotionally present. And that difference, that's everything. Imagine for a second how a typical moment of intimacy might start. Things heat up quickly. There's a rush, a rhythm, maybe even some passion, but often there's a part that gets skipped over, the slow build. That moment where you're not racing to the peak, but intentionally savoring the climb. For most men, that part is not only desired, it's missed. Because when foreplay moves too fast, it starts to feel mechanical, like a checklist. But when things slow down, when touch becomes about exploration, instead of expectation, that's when something deeper kicks in. It could be something as simple as running your fingers slowly down his chest, tracing his arm, or letting your hands linger just a second longer on his back. The key isn't the move, it's the pace. Slow touch says, I'm here, I'm feeling this, I'm not rushing. And men feel that. Even if they don't say it, they notice when someone takes their time. It sends a different signal than rushed grabbing or reactive gestures. It tells him that this moment is worth lingering in, that he's worth lingering on. And the beauty of it is, slow touch activates something in the mind that goes beyond the physical. It forces attention. It brings a man out of his head and into his body. Think about how often men are stuck in performance mode, trying to do the right thing, say the right thing, keep the momentum going. But when you slow it down and your touch becomes more deliberate, it disrupts that rhythm. It calms the nervous system. It brings focus. And most of all, it builds anticipation. That's another thing men crave but rarely ask for. Anticipation. The tension before the release. That delicious space where you don't know exactly what's coming next, but you can feel that it's coming. Slow touch creates that. And it's not about teasing for the sake of control. It's about drawing out pleasure in a way that makes every second feel intentional. When your hands move slowly, it forces him to be there, to feel every inch, every spark, every breath. That's not just hot, it's intimate. What's interesting is that many men won't even realize how much they've been craving this kind of touch until it happens. Because in a world where so much is fast and overstimulated, slow touch is rare. It's a kind of attention that says, you're not just a body I want to use, you're a person I want to explore. That message hits differently, it hits deeper, and it creates an emotional charge that fuels everything else that happens afterward. And here's something you might not expect. Slow, sensual touch can even make a man feel more masculine, not in a stereotypical over-the-top way, but in the sense that he feels seen, appreciated, and respected. When you take your time with him, it tells him he's desirable, that his body deserves attention too, not just yours. That kind of mutual focus builds trust. It removes pressure. It shifts the mood from doing to being. So if you've ever wondered what makes foreplay unforgettable for a man, it's not speed, it's not tricks, and it's not technique. It's presence. It's your energy behind the touch. The fact that you're there with him, not just trying to get somewhere, but fully experiencing this. And when he feels that, when your fingers move like you're painting a picture instead of flipping a switch, that's when everything else starts to melt away. And in that stillness, that slow build, that quiet electricity, that's where the real connection lives. When most people think about what men want during foreplay, they focus on the obvious: touch, visuals, physical closeness. But what often gets completely overlooked is how powerful words can be. Verbal play, whispers, affirmations. Those little things you say in the heat of the moment can be just as intoxicating as anything physical. And here's what most people don't realize. Men crave that kind of verbal connection. They just don't know how to ask for it. It's not about being loud or dirty for the sake of it. It's about using your voice to pull him in. Your voice has a unique power. It carries tone, emotion, intention. A simple phrase whispered close can send shivers through him. It doesn't even have to be graphic. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is something soft like, "You feel so good," or "I've been thinking about this all day." Those words land differently. They go deeper than the surface, because in that moment, you're not just describing what's happening, you're showing him that you're in it with him, that you're feeling something real, not just going through the motions. For a lot of men, foreplay can be a bit of a mental tightrope. They're trying to focus, trying to read your cues, trying to make sure they're doing it right. So when you speak up, when you give him that verbal feedback, it cuts through all the noise. It gives him clarity. It tells him, yes, this is working, keep going. And that confidence boost, it does more than stroke his ego. It grounds him. It puts him in sync with you. And it's not just about feedback. It's about connection. Think about how intimate it feels when someone says something personal in a quiet moment. It's disarming. It's vulnerable. That's the kind of energy verbal play creates during foreplay. It creates this little world where only the two of you exist. The room disappears. The distractions go quiet. It becomes about voices, breaths, heartbeats. That's the stuff that sticks with people. Not just the physical moments, but the emotional echoes that linger after it's over. Now here's the thing, men may not say they want this. They might not even realize it until it happens. But when you start speaking to him, really speaking, not performing, it flips a switch. It shows him that this is about connection, not just stimulation. It draws him out. Because even though men are often painted as simple when it comes to intimacy, the truth is they want to feel seen. They want to feel like you're engaging with them, not just playing a part. And when your voice enters that space, it personalizes everything. It says, I see you, I want you. You don't have to be a poet. You don't have to say anything elaborate. What matters is that it's real. A laugh in the middle of a kiss. A soft "you're mine" as your hands move across his skin. Even a teasing, "you like that, don't you?" It's those little moments that elevate the entire experience. Because now he's not just doing, he's feeling. He's hearing that you're right there with him, that you're affected by him, that you're not just a passive receiver, you're fully engaged. It's also worth saying that verbal play isn't always about confidence. Sometimes it invites vulnerability. A quiet, honest, "I missed this," or "I've never felt like this before," it opens the door to something deeper. Men crave that too. They crave moments where they can let their guard down, where intimacy becomes more than just a performance. It becomes emotional. And words are the fastest way to create that space. Not big conversations, just real, raw, unfiltered expressions that match the mood. And what's beautiful is, once a man experiences that kind of foreplay, the kind where he hears your pleasure, your thoughts, your reactions in real time, he starts craving it. Not just because it turns him on, but because it makes him feel chosen. It makes him feel desired in a way that few things do. Because let's be honest, anyone can touch you, but not everyone can reach you with words. And when you do both at once, when you touch him and talk to him in a way that hits his mind and body, he feels it in a way that lasts far beyond the moment. Confidence. It's the silent spark that fuels every intimate moment, especially during foreplay. And here's the truth most people don't talk about. Men deeply crave it in their partner. Not the loud, showy kind, not the forced, over-the-top performance, but the quiet, grounded kind. The kind of confidence that says, I know who I am, I know what I like, and I'm not afraid to show up fully in this moment. That kind of presence doesn't just turn a man on, it disarms him. It invites him in. It makes him want to stay. So many times people think confidence means having the perfect body, knowing all the right moves, or being bold and aggressive. But real confidence in foreplay looks completely different. It looks like comfort in your own skin. It looks like eye contact that doesn't dart away. It looks like moving slowly, being playful, not rushing to impress or overcompensate. When a woman carries that kind of energy, it shifts something in a man. He feels safer, he feels more excited, and most importantly, he feels wanted, not just for what he's doing, but for who he is in that moment with you. Men are far more intuitive in intimate moments than they often get credit for. They can sense when you're holding back, overthinking, second-guessing yourself. And the irony is, when you do that, it makes them second-guess too. But when you show up with even a small ounce of confidence, when you guide his hand, when you take control for a second, when you let out a soft sound without filtering yourself, it gives him permission to stop performing, to stop wondering if you're enjoying yourself, because now you're showing it. You're letting him feel it. And the magic of it is, confidence doesn't have to mean certainty. You don't have to know exactly what to do. You just have to be in it. There's something unbelievably attractive about someone who's curious, present, and unafraid to explore. You could make a move, then smile and say, I've never done this before, but I want to try. That's confidence. That's what men remember, because it's real, it's vulnerable, without being insecure. It says, I'm not perfect, but I'm open. That space where you're not putting on a show, but actually experiencing something together is what men crave more than anything. Confidence also changes the pace. When you're confident, you don't rush. You don't feel like you have to fast forward through the moment to get to the next thing. You can slow it all down, look him in the eyes, breathe deeper, let your hands move like you mean it. That kind of slowness, it's addictive. It shows that you're not in a hurry to be done. You're here to enjoy every second. And when you move like that, he does too. What's also important to understand is that confidence during foreplay is contagious. If you're comfortable with your body, he starts to feel more comfortable with his. If you're playful and unashamed of your desires, he feels safer to open up about his. And suddenly, it's not just physical anymore. It's emotional. It's not just bodies interacting, it's energy syncing up. That's what takes things from good to unforgettable. Even little things carry weight. The way you undress without rushing, The way you sit close without waiting for him to pull you in. The way you make a small sound or laugh when something's awkward instead of freezing up. All of that shows a kind of ownership over yourself. And men, they notice. They might not say it, but they feel it. It makes them relax, makes them want to give more, to be more present, to pay closer attention, because now it feels like a mutual experience, not a one-sided performance. And here's the part that most people overlook. Confidence doesn't just make the moment better, it creates safety. When a man feels that you're okay with yourself, he doesn't feel like he has to fix, impress, or overcompensate. He gets to just be with you. That kind of energy isn't just sexy, it's freeing. It turns off the noise in his head and tunes him into you. And that presence, that feeling that he can let go, stop pretending, stop trying so hard, that's the very thing he's secretly craving. So here's what it all comes down to. What men secretly crave during foreplay isn't just physical. It's emotional, mental, and deeply human. They crave connection, not just chemistry. They want to feel chosen, not just accepted. Initiation tells them they're desired. Slow, sensual touch pulls them out of their heads and into the moment. Verbal play makes them feel seen and deeply connected. And real confidence, that's the spark that lights the entire experience on fire. They may never come out and say it, but every man longs for that space where he can stop performing and start feeling. Where it's not about doing everything right, but about being present with someone who wants to be there too. When you bring that kind of energy, when you lead with curiosity, intention, and a sense of real connection, everything changes. You don't just create a moment, you create a memory. One he'll carry long after the lights are off and the night is over. Because at the end of the day, what men want most during foreplay is you. Fully there, fully present, and fully real.